Hello, hello. Hi, let's see here. Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna have to figure out. I'm gonna have to really master OBS because I used to have the chat in the OBS, but it disappeared, and now I gotta use YouTube chat, and that's not the best. Oh well. Anyway, hello, people. Welcome to the Black Ponder. Yes, this is we're live streaming. Hello, Lionel, Daniel. Hello, how have you been doing? I've been doing good. So I didn't live stream last weekend because I was busy doing all types of stuff. What was going on? Some of that we'll talk about in this talk. But I'm doing cool. How are you? And then Columbus Moore, hello. And Super Dude, hey buddy, your shirt is badass. The dashiki, yeah, this is so old. But thanks. Where did I buy this? I think I actually bought this when I was a teenager, and that was a long time ago. So these shirts, they last, man. They're so great for the hot weather. Okay, so yeah, welcome to the Black Ponder. This is a philosophy YouTube channel. We primarily on this channel. I'm the host, Neil Trotter, in case you're new here. And we usually just do videos about philosophical texts, but sometimes, or on the weekly, for the most part, I've been trying to do these live streams about philosophical topics because the goal is to level myself up as a philosopher, a philosophy enthusiast, a philosophy hobbyist. Let's do like amateur philosopher. That's what I want to do now. But to do that, philosophy is about not just about reading and reflecting on what you read. That's a huge part of it, but it's also about talking with other people. Right? You don't want to be your own echo chamber, right? Philosophy, like what Socrates would do. I mean, as you may know, that he would do that, and it didn't end too well for him. He got executed for doing that. But we live in I think I'm not in the same situation. Currently, I'm in an environment where I can talk to people about philosophical topics, even though I sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. But a huge part of philosophy is like having discussions with people about complex, interesting, and controversial, taboo topics, and in a logical, reasonable, civil manner. That's very thoughtful, productive, constructive, and that's part of it too. So that's what we do here on the live stream. I'm trying to do that. And today's topic is independence is a lie. And you might say, what are you talking about? Independence is a lie. Well, I actually am. So to give you some context, what was that all about? Well, I'm part of an activist organization. It's called Food Not Bombs, and it's like a local. It was a international group, but they have like local chapters, and we'll talk about that in my presentation, but I was able to give a talk as a member of that group at the library, at Memphis Public Library. They invited, it was a bunch of other activist organizations. The library, public library, invited them to give talks, and I was one of them. So the plan was, I'll record the talk and then post it on here on YouTube. But I was a dumb. I forgot, like, because I was in front of a window, and that's like, videography 101. Like, you don't shoot yourself in front of a video because you'll just be like a silhouette. Like, what is it, like high contrast in the background, low contrast in the foreground, basic videographer. So I was just like a shadow man. So it wasn't usable, really. Audio was good though, but I was like, okay, I'll just do it again during the live stream. I'll just redo it. So that's what we're gonna I'm just gonna do that. But of course, with these live streams, they're not like lectures, right? They're not like I'm just not, that's the whole thing. I'm not talking at you, I'm talking with you. It's a conversation. We're just hanging out, having a good time. So feel free to jump in and talk, ask questions in the middle of the conference, because we're, just think of it like, we're just sitting down, we're just chilling, we're just talking about stuff. And I even allow, like, if you want to just change the topic, that's cool. If you want to make a side note or a tangent, we can do that, no problem. But I'm usually very good at bringing things back around. I usually am able to tie it back in, so I'll still be doing that. But we're just having a good time. And I assume the audio levels are good, unless people would be tripping and saying it's not. So I will go ahead and get started now. Let's see how I can do this. It's not a PowerPoint, but it's like one of those slideshows. I use the Google Slides. Let's see. All right, so there is that. Let's see how I can do this. Maybe I could do it like that. Oh, wait a minute. What happened? Oh. Where did my video went away? Well, you can see the screen, but you can't. Let me see. Okay, there I go. Here, I'm behind it. Now what I want to do is that. Let's see, can I make this small? This is the first time I'm doing this. Let's try that for now. And okay, and then I go to Google, and then I'm gonna have to switch to check chat. It's all messed up. Okay, slideshow. Start from the beginning. Okay, now what if I do this? Okay, that's good. Okay, now I can see myself. Okay, good. And then I can even do this. You're probably not seeing any of the stuff I'm doing, but that's good for me. Okay, so you might hear like awkward pauses because I'm switching between windows. Because this is, live streaming this is new for me, so we're learning. So here's the bland front page. This is like a PowerPoint presentation thing, so it might be a little bit formal in that way, but feel free to talk. We're just hanging out, and there's no stylized font. I'm not a graphic designer, so independence is an illusion or a lie, or however you want to say it. And why? Well, how is that? So let's talk about this. There's an old saying, you gotta pick yourselves up from your bootstraps. That's just how the world works. You pick yourself up by your bootstraps, right? I know first of all, that's physically impossible. You can't do that, right? Physically, physics. But that's the saying, right? But I would say even like as a metaphor or as symbolism, doesn't make any sense. Like the reason why anybody is where they're at is because of somebody else or other people helping to get you where you are. Nobody succeeds on their own, right? Nobody gets anywhere and makes progress by themselves. That's just not how it works life doesn't work like that. And I would argue, reality doesn't work like that, to get philosophical. Existence doesn't work like that. We succeed. Oh, thanks. We succeed because of other people, right? And then there's this other saying, right? There's all types of sayings. Like we live in a dog eat dog society, right? Or we live in a dog eat dog world, There's life is a zero sum game, which it is not. Life is not a zero sum game. People like to frame it like that, and we kind of grow up in this idea. We're conditioned to believe life is a zero sum game, but it's not. I'll show you why, right? There are winners and there's losers in the world. You're either a winner or you're a loser, right? So you better make sure you're a winner, because you don't want to be a loser, as if there's this either or. And we could all be winners. Some people, we're conditioned in this world where it's like, oh, well, not everybody can win. Some people have to lose. That's not true, right? We could all win. It's just we got this strange programming that's happening that's giving us this false sense of reality. But there's all types of sayings like this. We are all radically interdependent on each other. So what is that like? Not only are we interdependent, we're radically interdependent, meaning like we depend on each other so much. It's like fundamental to our very being, right? It's existence fundamentally is interdependence, right? There is no independence. Like that, to be independent is not to exist. Right? That's what I mean when I say radical. Like, so that's where we're starting at. Okay, now let me check the chat. See if there's any issues. Okay, Lionel Daniel says, I just ordered this Capital and it seems difficult to understand. Did you read it? Yeah, I have videos on Capital. Check them out. All 3 volumes. Was it hard for you to understand? Yes, it was very hard to understand, but you just gotta. There were times I had to reread. That's my doggy. You've heard him before. You've heard him many times on the street. My doggy likes to bark at stuff. Were the times I had to reread? Yeah, I've also had to reread. Slow reading. Okay, Daniel David is reading. Yeah, Capital Volume 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, if it's any help, I do have videos on those. On Capital Volume 1, 2, and 3, and also like some of Marx's other works, like Communist Manifesto. So feel free to check it out. Okay, now so let me check. Did I slide transition correctly? Let me see. OBS. Okay. When I get to the Warren Buffett, I'm gonna have to move my camera, which is fine. So yeah, actually I could just stay here. OBS. Okay, cool. Stay there. Okay, so so I want to use some examples, as to like people say like there's examples of people who are self-made men. We're like, oh, these people, they did it on their own, or like they worked really hard and now they're at this spot where they're at because they really struggled on their own and got where they are, right? They're self-made men, right? But let me give you some examples. So you have, for example, Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos, the guy, the president or CEO or whoever, the person in charge of Amazon, one of the richest men in the world, right? Very successful, very in terms of financial success. But did you know like Jeff Bezos' father was a manager at ExxonMobil? I put in the slide. I put of manager of. No, his father was a manager at ExxonMobil. So you're making a lot of money if you're a manager at ExxonMobil. I know because I have a relative who's I actually have a relative who's a manager at ExxonMobil, and she makes a lot of money. She makes a lot of money as a manager at ExxonMobil, and her kids, my relatives, they're set. They're good to go in terms of college, and they're set. Thanks to that job. So there's that, right? He had some well-off parents. Not saying that that's bad. Not saying that's bad. It's good. Parents. It's good for parents to help their kids. But I'm saying like he didn't do it on his own. He also had a wealthy grandfather who lived on 25,000-acre ranch. His grandfather, Jeff Bezos acquired his grandfather's ranch, right, and expanded the ranch, and now it is the headquarters of Blue Origin, which is his rocket space tourism thing that he's doing, because all these people are trying to go to outer space for the hell of it, for fun. He inherited land from his grandfather, and that is how he's able to, have space to build rocket ships. Okay, and here's the other thing: his parents invested $250,000 in Amazon 1 year after he founded it in 1994. So Bezos founded Amazon in 1994. A year later, his parents was like, you know what, we're going to give you $250,000. So that'll help you out, right? That's pretty cool, right? $250,000. That's going to help you out in your business, right? So, did he do it on his own? No, right? Let me check the chat. Oops. Tab. And then Lionel, even if I got Wealth of Nations in a book, it's difficult to understand. I have not read Wealth of Nations yet. That is something I will be checking out eventually. Then you got Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook guy. I guess the company is now called Meta. What else? Instagram. He's in charge of that. I think they also own WhatsApp. Some of the most popular apps, that have ever been created, right? Huge, another richest man in the world, right? So Mark Zuckerberg, he dropped out of Harvard, and he went back to his parents for help when he dropped out. Which is, again, I'm not saying oh wow, that he's stupid for doing that. No, that's fine. I actually, when I went to university, and I dropped out of the first. I guess I basically dropped out. I went to the University of California in Berkeley. And I said I didn't like the school. I talked about this in another stream, and I left. And eventually, I went to another school and graduated and all that. But I dropped out, went back to my mama. So it's not like, hey, I ain't judging. I'm just saying he didn't do it on his own, like some people were saying. He had his parents' help. Now he grew up in an affluent, community, very rich people, upper class, socioeconomic class. Okay, he attended an elite boarding school, and he had his parents hired a private computer programming tutor, giving him a head start before college. Right, so he knew how to program before he went to college to study computer science. So he's well connected, right? And so what am I saying? What's the point of all this? He was connected, right? He had people that helped him, right? That's how we succeed in life, right? There is no such thing as independence. Everybody's interconnected, right? So, okay, let's look at Bill Gates. Okay. So Bill Gates, another guy who created Windows, MS-DOS, brought computer, basically created the home computing industry, right? This Bill Gates basically did that. As a member of, so his mom, both of his parents, but particularly his mom was, both of his parents were members of the board of many companies and corporations and organizations, associations. They were all over the map in terms of organizations. So one of his mom was one of the board members at United Way, that really big nonprofit organization. And so through a connection with her mom, through that board membership, she knew the CEO of IBM, right? And so she was like, "Hey, why don't I introduce the CEO to IBM to my son?" and that's how it helped him a lot with boosting up Microsoft, right? Bill Gates was one of the founders of Microsoft. He needed help. His mama helped him, right? It's like, I'm gonna introduce you to CEO of IBM. I know him through my affiliation with United Way. His mom helped him out. Nothing wrong with that, but he had connections. Now, Gates attended Lake Sky School. What school is that? It was a private school in Seattle where he was introduced to computers at a time when they were rare in school, right? So he saw computers when most people, they were not aware computers were even a thing, right? So he got a head start with like the technology of computers. It didn't just come out of nowhere, right? Again, so now I can move my. Oops! Don't move that one. I want to move my. Okay, move that. I'll move this up here like that. Cool. And then we have Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is just very popular because he just makes money. That's his thing. He's just able to just make money. That's like his second nature to him. He's like, capitalism is like, Beethoven was really good in like playing the piano. Right? Like it was just second nature to him. Beethoven would say that. He's like, I don't know. I just understand it. The way Warren Buffett, he says like, I just understand capitalism. It's just like a talent I have. Yeah. But how did he understand that? Well, his father was a successful stockbroker, and his father was also a 4-term U.S. congressman. So his father was well connected, and he was a successful stockbroker. And his father mentored him from very young age. So again, it didn't just come out of nowhere, right? His father was like, I'm going to show you the ropes, that's cool. A dad, teaching his kid how to be successful, nothing wrong with that. But he's not a self-made man, is what I'm saying. Okay. Okay, chat. Let's see. We've got some chat. Okay. Let's see here. And then Lionel Daniel says, Black Panther, you are the greatest. I will be looking at your videos. All right. Thanks, Lionel Daniel. That's cool. And then ethnic. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce. Ethnic. Ethnique? I don't know. Sorry. Athen. Right. This is definitely orthogonal to the conversation tonight, but I just wanted to pop in and say from one black banjo player to another that I hope you upload more of your picking soon. I know, right? I gotta get back on that banjo. I'm learning. What is the song I'm learning? What is it called? It's called. I forgot what the name of the damn song was. It's a very beautiful song. I'm learning another folk tune. This one has no singing. It's just. But I am working on a nice song. But it's gonna be a while. It's very hard. But I got this is Teacher. You can like download the video of him. He slows it down. He shows you which strings to pluck and stuff. So I've been looking at that. Yeah, banjo's fun. And then Danielle, yes, David, and there are also those that came before them that paved the way. Hello. You ain't lying. Okay, so let me go to the next slide. And so now you gotta ask yourself, like, okay, well, let's look at some geniuses. Some people who are geniuses. So is genius all that matters, right? If somebody says, oh, this person's a genius, so they're definitely going to make it. Let's look at some popular geniuses and see how well they were connected. All right. So I think when I go to Isaac Newton, I'm going to have to, let's see here. Go here. Okay. So let's go to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart, Mozart is considered, one of the greatest music composers to have ever lived. Right? He created these amazing symphonies when he was like, 9 years old. Right? Like you go to like the orchestra and you hear Mozart, and it's like, he created that when he was like 12, right? It's mind-boggling, like his genius. He was a genius. But let's look at his connection. So his father was a composer, a violinist, a theorist, and experienced teacher. So his father had created a textbook. It's like a textbook for violin, and that textbook is still being used today in countries in Europe for violinists, people who want to learn how to play the violin. They use Mozart's father's textbook. So his father was a very famous and very skilled teacher. So when you have a very skilled teacher as a parent who helps you out, who fosters your genius, you're well on your way to success. So while Mozart was young, he toured with his family throughout Europe, performing music in public for 3.5 years. He was just like, it was him, his sister, his mom, and his father. And they would tour Europe, and he was a little kid then. And so he got a lot of experience, playing music. Unfortunately, like for Mozart, he enjoyed it. Sometimes, the parents will drag their kids to be entertainers, and the kid doesn't want to do that. Like, I don't want to get into that today, but Mozart was cool with that. He was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Thank you for doing this to me. He says this, there's letters and stuff where he's like, it was a joyous experience for him. So he had a lot of experience as a young kid, performing live piano, right? And then when he was 8, so Mozart wrote his first symphony when he was 8 years old. So he wrote it down, but probably it was transcribed by his father, right? So he was composing the music at one of his famous symphonies, and his father was behind him. He's like, okay, I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna show you how to write it down. I'm gonna show you how to notate, and the father helped him out. So he was a genius, but he had his assistants for his father. What if he had a father who didn't give a damn about him, right? It was like, I don't want you to succeed, or who cares about your genius, right? Would Mozart would he be as well known, or would he have achieved as much as he did? His family enabled him, right? And his social status as well. Okay, let me I'll move it here. Okay, cool. Let's look at Isaac Newton. And y'all know about Isaac Newton, right? Genius, because he was the guy that figured out, one of the inventors of calculus, right? Discovered the laws of motion from large bodies in outer space, right? The laws of gravity, right? That we still use today. Not complete laws. Einstein would fill in a lot of those gaps, but we still use a lot of Newtonian physics today because it's a easy way to predict where bodies move in outer space, like for satellite dish. When we send satellites to outer space, or when we send rockets to other planets and such, we still use Newtonian physics. So genius guy. He also invented one of the telescopes that we use today. Genius, right? But so Isaac Newton, his father, who died 3 months before he was born, right? So he never knew his father personally, but he didn't know his father's property, because his father was a very successful farmer that owned property and animals and livestock, and he inherited all that, right? He inherited a lot of that. So that allowed him to he didn't have to work for a living, right? He could just like become a career student. He was a teacher. He eventually became a professor. He also worked in government and stuff, but he didn't have to. Like, he was set, and it was at first it was like, he was expected to be like, well, it's your responsibility. You got to manage the farm and the livestock, And so he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to learn, I would just want to study mathematics and stuff. And so he pushed that responsibility onto his mother. Right? So his mother managed the family wealth. And so, he had this wealth that was managed by his mother. And he was free to basically do whatever the hell he wanted. So, which is, cool, because now we understand the laws of physics and stuff. But he didn't do that on his own, right? If he wasn't wealthy, like if he didn't inherit all that property and that livestock and the money, and he didn't have his mother managing it, he probably wouldn't have time to invent calculus, right? That would, because he'd be too busy managing livestock, right? That's all I'm saying. All right, let's look at so again, let me look at the chat again. Like, not self-made person. Cool. Looking forward to it. Yep. With the banjo, and then we can look at Albert Einstein. Of course, he's like the, when you say the word genius, like that's like the first guy who comes to your mind, Einstein, right? So when Einstein was 8 years old, he attended, this school, which is now named after him. But the school was like an advanced placement school that gave him a lot of education, advanced education that most students of his time didn't have access to. So it really helped him out. He had a lot of education at a young age, and that gave him a boost, right? And then Einstein's father and uncle ran an electrical equipment manufacturing company, which funded his early education. So how was he able to go to this advanced school? Well, his father and uncle ran an electric equipment company, so that allowed him. They bought. They were able to afford that kind of education for him. Again, I'm not saying shame on him. I think that's great. Family looking after each other. But I'm saying he's not a self-made man. He had help, right? Einstein, a lot of people don't know, but his first wife was also a genius. She was a mathematical genius, also very intelligent in terms of physics. And Albert Einstein would write these research papers, and his first wife would look over the research papers and collaborate with them and proofread and peer review. And she was very integral to a lot of his early research, right? Although she's not credited really for any of that, right? Most people don't even know the name of the person, right? So there's the old saying, what is it? Behind every great man is a great woman, I guess. Sort of, if it wasn't for her, he also would not be where he wouldn't be able to have the time to do all this research, and he wouldn't have had that support. To a lot of the research that he did and a lot of the eventual discoveries was a lot of it was kind of built on the peer reviewing and the collaborative work that he had with his first wife, right? So without that help, he wouldn't been able to create the general laws of special relativity and all that stuff. Just something to think about too. And then we can go to Nikola Tesla. Let me move my camera over here. Cool. Another genius. He's a guy that our modern electrical grid is based off of the inventions that Nikola Tesla did. So Nikola Tesla, his mother she had this talent for making homecraft tools and mechanical appliances, right? And she also had this amazing memorization, right? She was able to memorize these long epic poems. And Tesla credits her mother for that. He's on record saying if it wasn't for my mother, I wouldn't, because Tesla, one of his things he's known for, he had a very good memory. He credits that to his mother, right? He also credits it because his mother was also an inventor. And he credits if it wasn't for my mama, I probably wouldn't have been an inventor. He's on record saying that. So again, his mama helped him out. Right? Not a self-made man, which is not like an insult, right? We are where we're at because of the people that loved us and cared for us, right? And although like Nikola Tesla avoided army conscription, right? He avoided basically getting drafted. Somehow he was able to enroll in college on a military frontier scholarship. I don't know how that worked, but he got a military scholarship go to school, to go to college, even though he like evaded the draft. I mean, I don't know how that happened, but okay. So he was able to go to school for free. Yeah. If he had to pay for school, which he probably wouldn't have been able to afford, would he have been able to have the knowledge to invent all the things that he invented? Probably not. Also, he worked under, the name is Tivadar Puskas. That's Russian. I probably butchered that. But that's the guy that invented like our system of telephone, the telephone exchange system. That I guess now that we have cell phones, it's different now. But I guess you could even say like, well, cell phone technology is based off of the old school telephone. And the father of that was one of his mentors. And also Tesla worked under Thomas Edison, another genius. So Thomas Edison was also one of his mentors. Right? So yeah, not self-made man. He had these other geniuses that showed him the ropes, guided him. Like, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. He's the best practices. When you have like masters helping you, you're gonna go far. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so chat, is there anything new? Okay, no. Cool. Okay, back to the slides. Okay. So now let's see let me go to OBS. Oh, wrong one. My bad, sorry. That'll work. Let's see here. Should I? Yeah, I'll just do that. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Okay, so what was that all about? Why was I showing all these things? I was just trying to demonstrate. I was showing you examples of famous people who were very successful and contributed a lot to human progress. And I wanted to show you like these people had assistance and help, and they had a network of people that helped them out. They had a network of loved ones who helped them out, family members and mentors, and they had like financial resources. Their needs were met, right? And they were enabled to do what they did. Eventually, there was an enabling process. Genius isn't everything. Like, let's say you're a genius, but you don't have like money, right? Or you don't have finances that are gonna help you go to like schools that are gonna teach you like really great things, right? Or like get exposed to like education at a very early age, right? If you don't have those things, it doesn't matter how much of a genius you are, right? Or the other thing is the self-made man with the work hard and work ethic. But if lots of people work hard, but working hard isn't enough. You got to have like resources, right? And so I would like to show you resources, right? Here is the Memphis city budget. That's the city I live in, Memphis, Tennessee, right? Memphis, if you're not in America, Memphis is one of those popular cities. It's the home of Elvis. I mean, he wasn't born here, but that's when Elvis blew up. That's where Memphis is most famous. Or home of B.B. King, home of the blues. A lot of music history here. Also the city where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Civil rights history is a lot here. The city has a lot of history, right? This is where I live in right now. I would like to share with you the city budget. Like this, this is where all of our tax money goes to, right? It's allocated toward. Check it out, okay? What is the biggest piece of the pie? It is 37.9% is police services, right? Let's see, 2023 proposed police services is $284,000,000, 580 no 284,580 right, goes to police services. Right. Okay. Well, how much goes to like library services? Right. Library services 3%. I'm just looking at this chart here. 22. Oh, is that a comma? Let me go. I think I said that wrong, didn't I? I thought that was a period. No. Police is $284,000,000. 480,825 dollars goes to the police. Okay. Library 22 million. Okay. Okay, that's 3%. 22 million is a lot, but compared to police, okay, what about like let's see. Fire services is important. That's the second biggest one. You know, gotta put out those fires. What about housing and community development? 0.6%. Right, a small ass piece of the pie, right here. Where is it at? Housing and yeah, it's that sliver right there. Information technology, 3.3%. Right. Oh, look at parks, 5.4%. Public works. Public works is like, you know, utilities. Right. We'll talk about that. 2.4% of our tax dollars goes to utilities. Right. Infrastructure, basically. Like, you know, street, pavement, electrical grid, that kind of thing. Waterworks. Right. Basic resources. City engineering, 1.3%. Yeah, so I would argue like our resource allocation is not prioritizing necessary resources that allow people to be successful. Most of our money goes to policing by far. Is this like, does this make sense? Like, is anything when I talked about those people, Tesla and like Mozart and Bill Gates, I didn't say anything about the cops. Right? This cop saved them, and therefore they were able to. No, I didn't say anything like that. But I did talk about education. Education was huge, right? For what when a lot of these people are successful. Education isn't even on this chart. It's not even there. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then we wonder why is like innovation and progress not happening like it should. Well, we're not, like, as a society, are we prioritizing what enables innovation and, you know, progress? I don't know. I don't think so. Right. Okay, so chat. There's a difference between independent. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped a lot. All right, let's go to the chat. Okay, hello, MA. Excellent subject to explore. It's likely that 90% of today's business billionaires did not get there through their own merit alone. I would say 100% of billionaires did not get there through merit alone. 100%, I would argue. In 2014, CNBC put out an article titled "How Self-Made Are Today's Billionaires," which claimed 69% of the four were self-made. Yeah, I'd have to really look into that article because I would probably debate them on that and be like, yeah, let's look at the people who are actually self-made and see, like, where did they, you know, get assistance? because I seriously doubt like they did it all on their own. Highly unlikely. Right. And hello, Jeremy Borno. But if you read the article, you see 90% of their self-made criteria included having middle class or better parents. Well, there you go. If you have like relatives who love you, or maybe they don't love you, maybe you just inherit a lot of money and they're just like, here, do whatever you want with the money. Who cares? You can do a lot with money. So I'm saying like, yeah, I would definitely say like you're not self-made if you have parents that are in the upper middle class, social economic class. Yeah, yeah. If your parents are in the socio-economic upper middle class, and then your parents are like giving you got access to that funds, then you're not self-made, I would say. What do you think of the strong, independent black woman trope? I think it's dangerous. I think it's that trope puts a lot of undue stress on black women, right? Black women they take a brunt of the discrimination and oppression in our society, and then to add to that, the society expects them to be this strong, independent. I mean, it's just another form of oppression. Honestly, it's just like kind of like a undercover way of like keeping oppressed people even more oppressed by like creating these myths, kind of like the model minority with Asians, same thing. You're like that illusion is like, oh, Asians successful because they can they can assimilate, but really like that whole stereotype or like perception discriminates against Asian Americans. It actually is more harmful to them than it is helpful, right? There's a difference between independence and freedom. No, yep, that's true. That's true. It's definitely a difference. We like to equate the two. Independence Day. But and then one difference I would argue is freedom actually exists, independence doesn't. Right? One exists, one doesn't. One is a lie, one is like the truth. Say, will you do the peace and reclusion video that I suggested? Eventually, but I got a queue of topics, and that's probably gonna be eventually I'll do it. I see independence as a pride to uphold the status quo. Unfortunately, I can't read that because there is a heart. Sorry. I'm gonna have to. Okay, let me see. Sorry, there's this little heart icon that's blocking the chat that YouTube likes to do. I don't like it. It blocks, so I'm gonna have to like copy and paste into word processor to read that. But I definitely want to read it because I want to participate. Okay, paste. Okay, no, none of that. Oh, okay, it was too. Okay. Yeah, it's a pride thing. Yeah, I guess it's not just America, but definitely like America has this obsession with like independence. It has to do with the whole like us being independent from Britain and all that shit, and it's like this kind of mythos. It's kind of like Greek mythology in a way, with like we have like the founding fathers as if they're like Mount Olympus or something. Like George Washington is Zeus and Thomas Jefferson is like Hermes and shit. And then you got like Paul Revere, like the British are coming. The Brit, we got all this whole mythos of like independence, and the people who toss the tea in the Boston River. It's kind of like the Johnny Appleseed is like it's like no different between like these historical facts we've like mythologized and the whole independence thing is kind of like been mythologized, and like we don't even, when we even say independence, like what are we even saying? Right? We have this weird it is kind of like a pride thing that like isn't really rooted in reality. It's kind of like this fantasy of America. Anyway, so that's the next slide. Let's see. Yeah, so that's where I left off. So I argue like our society does not provide resources to enable people to succeed. And as I tried to show through examples of people, to succeed, people need access to love, caring, nurturing, and also financial resources as well. And they need access to education, right? And we as a society do not prioritize that. What we prioritize is things like policing, criminal justice, right? Which is like, okay, so you might say to yourself like, well, you gotta prioritize policing. Like they're the ones that keep us safe. You gotta have a safe society. Police do that, but do they though? Do police keep us safe? All right, that's the question. So let's go to the next slide. And yeah, so I told you before, we work. I work in this group. I volunteer for this group, Food Not Bombs. Right, I'm a member of that group, and it's just one of many activist groups here in Memphis. Another one is Decarcerate Memphis. That's another activist group, and they do a lot of research about. They look into like the facts and figures and statistics of city activity. They look into the public records, and and then they also unearth and like push, records and data and information that should be public and is not. And they go to bat, and they go to the city council, and like they go to the press and say, hey, we need to have access to this data, and they are able to get a lot of access to this data because we should, right? Like policing should be like this should be transparent, right? The data. So they did a research on traffic stop data. When police stop people for traffic violations, and they show this was suspected, right? But it's very important to actually like show the facts. Like I wasn't surprised by this, but it's very important to show that when this isn't just like an inkling, right? This isn't just like my gut feeling. Like, no, this is the data shows that most traffic stops are they're non-safety related. They have nothing to do with safety. Half of traffic tickets in Memphis aren't about public safety. They're about financial requirements, talking about driver license, registration, and insurance. Right? That's what it's not about. Like, people aren't gonna like they're not being stopped because they're about to do something violent, right? And then this counterproductive practice endangers the public and traps low-income drivers into poverty. You see, because a lot of like driver's license, registration, insurance, and and also just car registration and things like that. Like the cost of like driving a car. It's expensive to drive a car, right? As many of you probably know, right? And if you're low income, like that's a struggle, right? So the people who are stopped are the people who can't afford, who are struggling to afford these things. It's not the people who are like about to cause a violent crime. It's the people who have the least amount of money, which like that has nothing to do with safety. It's not like, oh, we're gonna we're gonna like stop the people who can't afford cars. Like that's gonna keep our society safe. No, right? And as a result, like, and then the other thing, as Traffic laws also disproportionately enforced upon black and low income drivers, right? And they show like black drivers were cited 10% points more than the share of the population. And it, I hate to say it, but we know this is the case, right? But some people like to not live in. They like to be colorblind and be like, "Oh, that's not what's happening," even though it's blatantly obvious. But there's all types of a sociological and like social economic research. That's if you want to just look at the hard data, you can see this, all right? So here's just one. And this is a very good research article, and this is very recent. This is like this was done like within a year ago. That's the website. Check it out at your leisure if you would like. So we gotta ask ourselves like this, and these are the things that police are doing the most, like traffic stops. So are they actually providing safety? Right? Or are they just oppressing low income and people of color, right? And is that enabling success? But yet we put most of our resources are put into this, right? See, that's why I'm saying like this is a problem. Okay, so let me see if there's any new thing in the chat. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, I missed a lot of stuff. There's a difference. Okay, okay, I see. The men in your presentation demonstrate that wealth still determines social progress. Yep, hello. If you are low income, like if you don't have money, if you have a limited access to money, your chances of being successful in terms of like succeeding in life, like having your basic needs met, they fall dramatically. That's just the society we live in. So wealth definitely determines social progress. Absolutely, it does. So we need access to that. Also, and then hello Maya Laku. Also, that Jeffersonian myth of the land-owning citizenry. Yep, that's true. All this mythos. This obsession does fuel loneliness. This is obsession with independence. Absolutely, yeah, it's true. Also, there is many people with talents and ideas whom gatekeepers overlook them. True. Success is at the hands of handlers. Yeah, no, that's true. And MA says Oprah is held up as one of the very few billionaires who made it out of poverty on her own, which is partly true. Thanks to the affirmative action Upward Bound program, she was able to leverage her success in school and was transferred to the affluent suburban Nicollet High School. Yeah, my older brother was part of Upward Bound. Yeah, I'm familiar with Upward Bound. By the time I got exposed to Upward Bound, the program was kind of like it was not funded anymore. It wasn't like well resourced anymore. So it was like no reason to. It wasn't helpful anymore. The resources, the funding wasn't there anymore for Upward Bound. But my older brother was part of Upward Bound, and that helped him out a lot with education. So yeah, no, there you go. She credits her dad for believing in her, saying in 1986, "When my father took me, it changed the course of my life. He saved me. He simply knew what he wanted and expected. He would take nothing less." Yeah, it's a family. If you got good family, they will help you out. Her past is replete with self-made factoids and success, but she needed affirmative action to give her an equal footing. But CNBC and other outlets are slow to bring this up. Exactly. Right. They don't, because they want to hold the mythos of independence. It's like, yeah, this person made it on their own, but they're ignoring like all the the resources and the loved ones that also help them. right? And that's, to highlight the people that help you isn't negating like the hard work that you put on your own, right? Of course, like, hard work definitely helps tremendously. If you like give it your all, that definitely is, something to be celebrated and applauded. Yes, but hard work doesn't alone give you success. Absolutely not. There's so many people that work their asses off and get nowhere because they just don't have like connections, right? They don't have loved ones, fueling them, right? They don't have like they just don't have money. Unfortunately, like we're saying, wealth matters, right? And then there's people who don't work at all and they're like hella successful, right? And we know all types of, Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian. We could go on and on about these people who are like, what have you actually done that warrants your success? I don't, I'm not judging, I'm not saying like these are horrible people. I'm just saying like these are examples of people where like hard work, it shows like hard work is not necessarily what brings you success, right? It's a contributing factor, but it's not the primary contributing factor, I would argue. And then for good reason, because bad faith actors will dismiss her success. Let me see. I got that heart symbol is blocking me again. Sorry. Copy, paste. Oh, okay, that's what I thought. With bad faith, yeah. No, yeah, Oprah is, Oprah's awesome. she's cool. I'm a fan. Oprah. I'm a fan of Oprah. She definitely worked hard, and she is an inspiration. And she struggled. She struggled a lot in life, and she persevered. And a great inspiration. But as you said, like also she had a lot of help and assistance, right? And that contributed largely to her success, which is nothing to be. That's great. That's to be applauded too, because should be applauded, right? That's all I'm saying. Now, where are we at here? Oh, yeah. And so yeah, we looked at the city budget and we saw like public works had like very little money, and we in Memphis, our utility company that like handles the electricity, the gas, and the water. They're called MLGW, Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, right? It's becoming quite regular now. Like people are, like so our electric grid is really poor, right? Because what happens is we don't have our electric wires, our public electric wires are not underground. They're like the electric poles are attached them. You can see them like up in the air, and so like what happens is we also have a lot of trees here in Memphis, and it rains a lot. We have like a lot of torrential downpours, but they're like very like they don't last long. But we also have lots of wind gusts, so it's common for like the trees, the water, the rain will drop onto the trees, right, and it'll make the surrounding ground unstable, and then the wind will blow the tree over because the ground is not like solid anymore, and the tree will just fall over because of the wind, and the tree will knock down cables, and then so the power will just go out on like lots of homes, right? And that power sometimes is out for like days, right? It's not just like an hour or two. No, sometimes it's like days. Like some people are out for power like 3, 4, 5. I mean, some people are out for power for weeks. It's nuts. It's crazy, right? The idea is like in America, we were like one of the richest countries in the world, right? The most real resource, but like no, like that's true. Like we do have a lot of riches, but the rich, as many of you know, not surprising, the financial resources are, allocated to the to the super elite, the people at the social economic high class, right? And here's a map. This is from Fox. This is just a news channel, local news channel. They did some research, and they said, and this was like a news article that they showed on TV. I just went to the website and like went to the article that they referred to on the TV, the local news, and they said like, look, these are the people that deal with outages the most. They're the people with the lower income, like people who are the neighborhoods with the fewest yearly outages. And I put these the names of these neighborhoods here because they're well known in Memphis. So if you live here, you know, like, oh yeah, Cordova, Southwest. They're well known to be like the uppity suburbs, right? And then you go to Shelby Forest, Orange Mountain, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the ghetto, right? That's the hood. That's where the lower income people live, right? They're the ones that get the most outages, even though we all pay the same for our electric bill. Nobody's paying, like, people who live in the suburbs aren't paying more for electricity than the people in the lower economic areas. We're all paying the same, but yet the people who don't have, with the least amount of resources, are dealing with these utility problems, right? And here, as you know, like in July was reported to be like the hottest day, the hottest month in recorded history, right? It's hot, yeah. It's like it feels. The heat index is like over 100 degrees, right? So if you're not with power, you don't have AC. Like, and you're just sitting here and it's like 100 degrees in your house. It's like you can't function, you can't think, you definitely can't invent calculus, right? You can't like start developing the laws of like gravity, like Tesla. You can't like start composing musical scores, right? When you're like, you don't have air conditioning, you can't even function because you can't even. It's so damn hot, right? That's what I'm talking about. You at least need an environment that allows you to create or be innovative. If you don't have that, you're not going to be successful. It doesn't matter if you're a genius, right? If you don't have AC, like if you're like in an environment that's like 100 plus, you're not. It doesn't matter how much of a genius you are. You're not going to develop like a ninth piece symphony. You're just not gonna. Your brain is not going to be. Refresh. Yeah, sorry, I think I lost you for a second, but we're back. Yeah, are you still there? I'm here. I'm here. I don't know what happened. Hey, I guess my internet. I don't have the strongest internet. Socialist and yeah. It's true. My internet is not the best here, but we back. Okay, so let me go. Where were we? I think I cut out here, but basically what I was saying is the food deserts correlate with the utilities, the lack of utility service, the power outages, and basically what I was saying is people who lack resources are like is multiplying. It's like multiplicative. It's like compounded, right? People who are lacking they're getting harassed by police. They're dealing with utility problems. They have limited access to nutritional food. And so the point is, like, it doesn't matter how much of a genius you are or like how hard you work. If you don't have access to resources, you're not going to be successful. So now we'll move on to what Food Not Bombs does. Okay, let me go to the seems like the feds are trying to. I know, right? Am I getting? No, not with my. I don't have enough viewership for the fans to take note. Another interesting article. Uh, okay, I'll check that article out. 75% of super high achievers come from troubled families. Yeah, I'll definitely check that article out. Sometimes you really do need to be very skeptical. That's why I include my sources here. Because 75% of super high achievers come from troubled families. Okay. Maybe they have a drive to achieve, but do they actually achieve? That might be true. Maybe they do. That could be true. Yeah, that could be true. Let me go back to my slides. Let me see here. What was the problem here? Window capture. Okay. Let me get my slides back here. Can I just delete this? Remove. Yes. Okay. Add window capture. Okay. I want that. Share. Cool. It's just like when we do this in person. It's the same. The projector doesn't work, and you're like, "What's going on?" All right. Any more chat? Oh, they're lying. Yeah, that's why I figured as much. And then Jeremy Barno says, all people in the world deserve to live in communities. Hello. So that's what brings us to my next slide. Which is here. Okay, yeah, all people deserve to, let me just repeat what Jeremy said here. All people in the world deserve to live in good communities. I agree. Right. And that's why we talk about, that's what the mission of Food Not Bombs is. No, so Food Not Bombs specifically is about, the goal of Food Not Bombs is to abolish hunger. Right. There's so many hungry people in the world, and particularly like here in the United States of America, where we pretend like this is like the golden standard of like a country. But hunger is a profound problem here in the United States of America. Lots of people go hungry, and it doesn't have to be like that, right? In fact, like 40% of all food that is produced gets thrown out, because a lot of groceries or restaurants or they have food that's about to expire, eateries, and they just like, well, we can't sell this, or it's got to go bad, let's just throw it out. So we recover a lot of that food, and it's good food. It's just like we have to like prepare it quickly to give it out, or it'll turn bad. But a lot of it isn't like good. They got quite a while before they go bad. It's just they just throw it away. So what we do is we prepare the food and we just give them to people who are hungry. It's homeless, houseless people, but also just people who just need food for all types of other reasons. Because, if you're hungry, you can't succeed. You can't like we're talking about all those successful people. You can't develop Windows operating system if you if you're hungry, right? Right. So, that's what we're about. That's what we're about. And we feel like it is our systems. So why are people hungry? It's not because people don't work hard or people making wrong decisions. The people who are hungry are morally failing or like they're making bad decisions in life. No, it's like our society is structured in a way where hunger is just a thing that happens. Like we were talking about with the city budget. Like we put all our money not in like housing and community development. The tax dollars is like 0.6, not even 1%. 0.6% of our tax dollars goes to housing and community development. 37.9% goes to policing, right? And like I said before, education isn't even on this chart. It's not even there. Public works 3%, less than 3%, 2.4% public work. This is where our tax dollars goes, right? Right, and it's like, no wonder why people are struggling in life. We don't, as a society, we don't prioritize the resources necessary for people to succeed. But that's by design, right? Like what somebody was saying, I think MA was like, the feds are gonna shut you down. It's like, yeah, because like our socials, the people who are in charge design our society where certain people don't become successful, as you saw with the successful people. Oh, let me go back. This is particular. Like look at these people, right? Are there any women? Are there any people of color? Are there any queer people? No, these are straight white men, right? Even like straight white men. Okay, these are the people that we prioritize, right? That's all we're saying. And Food.Bobs recognizes this, and that's why we are like, look, not only do we feed people, we want to show people like, hey, our systems and our social economic structures and institutions are fucked up, right? People like innovation, creativity, progress is not happening because resources are not allocated in a way that's conducive to most people living the best life that they can live. That's the mission of Food.Bobs. Let's see here. I forgot your okay, so I forgot your comments. Uh-oh. Please put your comment back in the chat so I can remember it. America has one of the highest standards of living, but the quality of life doesn't seem to match up. Oh, like, yeah, America is known for having the highest standard. Like, this is the greatest country in the world. But is it though? When like the in America, the number one reason why people declare bankruptcy in America is because they can't afford their health care. They have so many health bills that they have to declare bankruptcy. That's it. That's this country, right? That's this country. Is that the greatest country in the world, right? To get a degree, a college degree in this country, you have to put yourself in tens of thousands of dollars, almost $100,000 in debt if you get to try to get a graduate degree, which everybody should be allowed to do, right? Should we get in debt for is that the greatest country? This is embarrassing, right? But and then we think like, oh, people should succeed, right? How can you succeed when you're like buried in debt for like basic needs, education, healthcare? Come on. This is like basic stuff necessary to succeed. But it's like, that's all. That's why Food.Bobs, we do what we do. I did explain clearly one of your previous slides, but the modern dating scene. One of my previous lives. But the modern dating scene has a crappy way of expressing love and spending time together. The modern dating scene relates to this topic. Well, that's a whole nother. It's kind of related, like, but we talked about that in a previous live about it's all you. But we talked about what is love, right? Our conception of love is fucked up. Right. Our conception of love is fucked up. So yeah, like modern dating love is like, but I'll talk about this like a little bit. When people are like, the modern day, it's like this puritanical way of thinking. Right? People go on dating apps because you like to think like it's funny because there's this veneer, right? Because we have Tinder, right? And Tinder is like about one night stands and quick fix love scenarios, love affairs. But that's not really why. People will say like, oh, I go on Tinder to, we've been conditioned to like meet that number one, that soulmate, and people even use Tinder. That's why when people, I know plenty of people who have been on Tinder and they met their like the person they married on Tinder, right? It's not getting confused, because people like they want to have that white picket fence, that 2.5 kids, that dog and that cat and that goldfish, the house, and we've been conditioned, and that's love. Right, that's love. Right, like it's not about like forming a meaningful relationship with somebody and like recognizing the person for who they are truthfully, and like enabling them to realize who they truly are, like figuring out, like enabling the person that you love to be who they truly are, right? Be the best version of who they can be. That's love, right? That's love. But that what you're saying, the modern dating scene is about, I'm just trying to find the person that I can like have my 2.5 kids with, right, and have my white picket fence with, which is like warped. Right? But it's just all this hyper capitalist like this like patriarchal hyper capitalist like social conditioning that we've been programmed in. And that's why divorce rate is so high, and all types of love. There's so much toxicity in like love relations today, because what really is love? But we talked about that. We talked. Check out my previous live, which I think you're referring to. If you grew up in let me bring my. I'm sorry. You're looking at my camera. You're not looking at You're just looking at my pictures. Let me bring back my camera, so because I'm still here. See, there I am, right here. I didn't go anywhere, but you were looking at my slides. Okay, what else? If you grew up in a healthy and stable community, then you don't need to pursue success in a way. Right, because like I'm saying, like when people pursue success, what are they pursuing? They're pursuing like a Porsche, or they're pursuing like, I need to have like a house with like 30 acres, right? Or like I need to have a mansion. That's success for me. I need to have my H2 Hummer. That's success. I need to have my home theater system in the basement. Like that's my success. Right, or like I need to have my 6-figure salary, But what you're saying is, if you live in a loving community, you're already successful, right? But our idea of success is warped and is corrupt. That's why there's so much. That's why there's so much depression and anxiety, because we're pushed to these goals that aren't fulfilling, and so when we achieve these goals and we don't find happiness. They're like, people are like, what? I don't understand. What's wrong? Like, I achieve these things, or sometimes you never achieve, like, oftentimes you just don't achieve these things, right? If you look at money, but even like look at patriarchy, and that new movie Barbie came out. I haven't seen it, but it's supposed to be a critique of the patriarchal structure. And it's very common. Like, you're conditioned to like look like whoever. A Barbie model, like a Kim Kardashian or a Paris Hilton, like. But even those people are like are racked with depression because the goal is unattainable. Like that look, it's unattainable. So you're just like constantly working toward this goal that is just never gonna happen, right? And this is what we think success is, right? So And then MA says 3 things determine success. 1, access and appreciation for education. 2, entry into the right social networks. 3, having a father, being born into a 2-parent or single father home. Well, I guess I have not been successful in your criteria, MA. Because I never had a father growing up. I grew up in a single parent household with a mom and a grandma. Yeah, but am I successful? Yes, I think, because I found love in my life, and and hopefully I continue with that success, because I got a nice family. But yeah, I had a father. So I guess in your book I'm unsuccessful. That's a shame. And then Jeremy Bordeaux says a practical solution with food deserts and hunger should be subsidizing fruits, vegetables, meats, and grains, and learning to eat in small portions. Or, you know, let's like stop. You know, food shouldn't be like this like industry, right? I mean, you shouldn't be making profit off of food, right? Like food shouldn't be like, a matter of like maximizing profit margins, right? Food should just be something that you people can, have to just fulfill nutritional value, right? I don't know. I would get even more basic than that. Like, I don't know. Jeremy Bordeaux says we need to lay off with Popeyes and Burger King, although I know what I say makes me seem right-wingish. Well, no, we do need to lay off Popeyes and Burger King. Problem is there are communities where the only way to get food is to go to Popeyes and Burger King. Like, they don't, there's some neighborhoods and communities that you can't go to, like, there are no like Whole Foods, or like there are no like Trader Joe's, right? There are no like, the grocery store is like miles away and there is no car to go over there, but you can walk to Popeyes, right? So you might as well have that than starve to death. That's what I'm saying, right? See, that's the issue. And NMA says typically three things. Oh, did I skip something? Yeah, I did. MA says, I disagree that classical patriarchy, the father-led home, is the problem. Stats don't show this. I disagree that classical patriarchy. I disagree with you. I think I identify as a feminist, and I think ultimately patriarchy is the number one issue that humanity is facing today. I think once if we can get over this problem that is patriarchy, like, we can solve all of our problems. Capitalism is like a consequence of patriarchy. Climate change, consequence of patriarchy, and I could go into that further if you would like to discuss. Homelessness, all these problems. Just take your pick. Food shortages, it's all patriarchy, right? It all stems from. That's my opinion. One of these days, I'm gonna write. That's my book. That's my philosophical manifesto, right? Like, patriarchy is the ultimate problem humanity faces, right? But if you want to go, if we can continue that line of discussion if you want. And then you say three things typically determine success just based on the numbers alone. Oh, typically, and then you're very successful. Not saying that at all. Yeah, but I never had a father. So, you're saying but typically, but not like in all cases. So I'm like an outlier to you. Like, I was successful, but I didn't have the third point. So I'm like an outlier to you. Jeremy Borno. I grew up like you, Neil, and I'm classy and intelligent, but single parent households are often obstacles for children. Yeah, and the reason why is not because there's no father. The reason why single parent households are a problem is because, like, one source of income is not enough to support a family. Right? So that's a problem of resources, right? It isn't like, we're missing like the male, like, perspective in terms of nurturing. Like, there, a man can teach you only certain things. Like, no, it's just like, that was the problem with me when I was growing up. My mama had to work 7 days a week. She had to work a lot to support me and my brothers. right? It wasn't like I wasn't missing out on like manly fathering, or like, I learned how to tie a tie. Like I learned how to like all the things that a man whatever, I don't know, fix a car, all that, change oil, all that bullshit, manly bullshit. I don't, whatever, list whatever manly thing that you're supposed to learn by a father. All those things, like like didn't I eventually learned all those things, or I just, in terms of car, I just go to Jiffy Lube or something. uh, but yeah, it was just, the hard part was it was a money situation was always a problem with us. And that's the issue with single parent households. It's like the lack of resources. Shit, even like two parents like earning money, even that's like barely enough. A lot of times that's not enough in today's world, right? You need more than like two parents earning money, right? So I don't know. And Cloud Monkey says, within the marketplace, even food has been repackaged as a want, as opposed to a fundamental human need. Exactly. And I believe I actually talked about that on the last live stream, about scarcity is a myth. Food has been replaced as a want. Yeah, right. Yeah, so like this luxury. Food is a luxury. What? Are you kidding me? Food is a necessity. Anyway, so this is what we believe in Food.box. Oh yeah, I need to go to OBS and I need to switch to my slides. Okay, we're back onto the slides. Okay, so we do some things. What do we do at Food.bobs? Well, we do like what teach-ins, right? What I was saying before about, we want to show people that is, we don't just feed people, right? We want to show like, we're giving you food. It's not like you messed up in life, or like you like made a mistake, or like, you made some moral fail. No. It's the systems have fucked you over, right? Literally, like, you have failed. We get so many people, like, one of the main people that I encounter a lot are veterans, people who are in the army, and they're just like out on the street. But it's like the myth is like, oh, the army takes care of you. Like, that's bullshit, right? And then they're like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, well, that's the military industrial complex, right? That's fucking over, like, veterans as well as just average people and just people across the globe as well. That's why you didn't do anything wrong, right? You served your country apparently, but you're still hanged out to dry. Things like that, and we talk about that all types of, we talk about social economics, and we try to show people like, hey, when you have a government where all of your tax dollars most of your tax dollars are going to law enforcement and criminal justice system, and they're not going to education, housing, education, you best believe there's going to be hungry ass people on the street, right? You best believe that, so that's, we talk about that. We also do support community refrigerators. There's another group they call 901 Community Refrigerators. They set up refrigerators that are free. They're just out in the street. Anybody can open them and take what they need. Anybody can donate. They work great. And we're trying to set up more. And that's what we believe. Like, food should just be like that, where you just can just take any, because there's no reason why it shouldn't be like that, or it couldn't be like that. And as we show, like, we just gather food, we put it in there, we fill these fridges. And then we have the mutual aid feeds, where we we serve food to we just do public servings. That's the cartoon. Let me see the chat, if there's any new stuff. Okay, let me switch. Okay, now you see me. And now I will check out the chat. Please look into MA says. Please look into statistics. Poor single fathers still raise better adapted kids. Kids from single father homes do as well as kids from two parent homes. Well, I would like for you to. Am I? Hopefully, it says excellent connection. I hope I didn't cut out again. 'Cause that would suck. Stop streaming. Okay, I think I'm still streaming. Good. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. I'll just keep talking. It looks like I'm good. But yeah, please provide some reports or some links to some of those stats in the chat. And yeah, I'll gladly look them over and see. I have checked out some stats that claim that that's the case, but then you look them over and you're like, oh, that sample size is either like too small or it's like targeting specific. The sample size is messed up, you know? Or like, the methodology of the research is like, oh, this is definitely like like a highly suspect, right? Yeah, so but I'm open. Like, if you would like to show me some research, but yeah, so I don't know. If you were raised by a single mother, don't let this feel like a slight, because it's not. No, it's not. I don't feel like it's a slight. Because yeah, definitely, like, if I had a father with my mom, that definitely would have been a better situation. Not because I don't think it's because I would have like got like education on how to be a man. I don't think, but I think it would, if I had a father who loved, who was caring and kind, and was able to provide resources. That would have been better, a lot better for my mom, of course, because they could have shared responsibility. So I agree. Like, two parents are definitely better than one. But maybe two mamas would be cool, right? I don't see a problem with that, and just no father, or two fathers, no mama. That's fine, Yeah, I just don't buy into the like, what are the special, like, fathering, like, what advantages do you gain from like the father, as opposed to just say parent. I mean, that's where I would kind of get confused. And also, I grew up in a community of people who lived in who grew up in single parent houses, where it was all moms, single parent moms. That's like where I grew up, in a community like that, and we all, like, today we're all pretty well to do. We struggled because we were in low income, lower income and lower middle class, socioeconomic class income. So there was that, and also like all these other problems in terms of like they had to do more with gang violence and gun violence and things like that. But none of my friends that I grew up with is saying they're like, they don't tell me like, damn, I wish I had a father, that would have really helped me. Now I don't know how to be a man. Like, I don't get any of that from my buddies, but I don't know. And then Jeremy Borno says, people should also learn to appreciate healthy food and support farmers markets. Yep. Can you imagine big cities having farmer market if only ghetto issues were rectified? Well, my Memphis is kind of a big city, and we have a lot of farmers markets. Like, we have a lot. We have, like, I can think of like 6 off the top of my head, and we collect a lot of food from farmers markets, where farmers are about to throw out their food because it's about to expire. Well, that's where we actually get most of our spare food, is from farmers markets. But there's still this problem of like there's still so many hungry people still in the city. So it's not just farmers markets. Farmers markets are a great way to provide healthier food, but it's a mentality thing, is what it is. It's a mindset that we gotta like get over. That's why I always bring it back to philosophy, right? It's the minds. It's this notion like scarcity is this myth. Food is not a luxury. Like people think like you should work to have food. Like you need to earn your right to have food, right? Like that's what we think of in our society. That's like normal, where it's like, and even within a farmer's market, if we just have our farmers market, if people are still thinking like that, like food is like this limited resource and you gotta work your ass off to get it, and you gotta earn access to food, whereas just what it should be is like food's just available. It's like oxygen, right? It's just there. Like why would you even question? Like of course you have it. It's like you should have it by default for just being a human being, right? But I don't know. It's wild to be a Christian to downplay the importance of the Father. Well, Christianity is the institution of Christianity is fucked up. I'll tell you, I'm a Christian, but the institution of Christianity is fucked up. And I've said this many times. That's why I stopped going to church. But I'm a lover of Jesus. I love Jesus, but yeah, Christianity is so problematic in so many ways. I mean, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, we could. Yeah, the patriarchy that's in Christianity is like just through the roof, and is very Christianity is incredibly toxic. I mean, we've actually talked about this in many live streams. If you want to go back to some of my live streams, but yeah, it is kind of crazy. It is wild, right? To downplay fatherhood, but I don't know why the way the institution of Christianity like platforms fatherhood, or like frames fatherhood and frames motherhood, right? With the whole, and then don't get me started with abortion access and how motherhood is this like toxic thing in terms of Christian. I mean, don't get me started. I can go on and on, but we're gonna stay on topic. Jerry Bordeaux, who have more advantages in your view? Who has more advantages in your? Oh, I'm sorry. The heart is blocking. Let's see. Copy, paste. Who has more advantages in life, your view, urban or rural children? I mean, the person who has more advantages are the person who has access to loving the people who love them, and and access to like basic necessities like food, water, housing, and also like education and security and safety, right? I mean, it doesn't matter, like urban, rural, it's the same. Like if you have access to those things, wherever you live, it's like it's fine. Like who has more advantages in life, urban or rural? I don't know. I mean, it depends. Like if you're living in a rural environment but you have education and safety and healthcare, right? And maybe you got a local doctor. I don't know. I never grew up in a rural environment. I imagine like it's that those kind of resources are harder to access rurally, but I grew up in an urban environment and those resources are oftentimes hard to access. So I don't know. I don't even think that's I think it's there is no advantage urban or rural. I don't know. It depends. Okay, so let's go back to this. To the slide. Okay, go to OBS. Go here. Okay, we back to the slide. Still on Okay, just checking here. We still live. Cool. Okay. And so, like, yeah, this is the final slide. So I'll just share with you a story. So we're at Food Not Bombs, and we're serving food at a public park, and we're giving food to homeless people. And these officers come up and they say, like, yeah, you can't do that here. You're not allowed to do that here. And we're like, what? Like, we're not allowed to share food to like homeless people or people who just are just we can't share food. Period. We're giving food out for free. We're not selling anything. And they're like, you can't do that here. And we're like, what? Eventually they say, like, you need a permit, and we're like, you need a permit to sell food. So these people in the blue, they're not police officers. They are like security officers that can call the cops. Right? They're called. I thought it was like they're referred to as Blue Suede Brigade. Right? I thought that was like a joke. Like I thought, but that's actually what they're called, Blue Suede Brigade. And they're like basically security officers that work for this entity. It's called Downtown Memphis Commission. They're like in charge of like the downtown Memphis area, or they run it basically. And they saying like, we need a permit to give free food to homeless people, and we reject that. We're like, no, we don't need a. You don't need a like what? So we need permission from the state to share food. Like, we need permission from the state to be kind and compassionate. Huh? Right? No, we reject that. And so what we did is, and so I have this guy with this X cross. His name is Paul Young. He's the president of the Downtown Memphis Commission. So he's over these guys. He's the guy that he's the guy in charge. He runs the Downtown Memphis Commission, an activity that goes in downtown Memphis, and he's the head of those Blue Suede Brigade people. And so we asked some our paralegal friends, and they told us like, no, it's a public park. You can serve free food. Like, it's a public park. You don't need a permit. But so we're kind of putting our foot down, and we're saying like, no, like why are you giving us crap for like helping homeless people? But the point is, like, this is the society that we live in today, right? We live in a society that that does not encourage kindness and compassion. We support violence and punishment. Like, we finance police and law enforcement, and they oftentimes solve problems through violence, right? But when somebody tries to be kind and compassionate, they are like told by authority, you can't do that. And that's why society is in the shithole that it is now, right? Because we don't like what happened. Like, that's what I say. Like, Food Not Bob's is about like bringing back the idea that we are all interconnected. Nobody succeeds on their own, right? To succeed, you have to be provided food and shelter, housing and security, right? If you don't have these things provided to you, you cannot succeed. We help each other out. That's how we're successful. But we live in this society where the illusion of independence is pushed upon us, right? It's pushed upon us. It's like those houseless people, those homeless people, they're there because they had a moral failing. They had, they made a mistake. And also they make our property, our real estate, and our fancy property, it makes it look bad. So we don't want you feeding them and like people looking at homeless and housing people. It makes it look bad. So we want them to just go away. It's like, that's what's going on here, right? I'll bring it back to my camera. Okay. Here. Okay, I'm back. and so like this is like, there's this deception, like people have to make it on their own, and if you try to tell the truth and try to be real and say like, you know what, you just need some help, let me help you, because we all need help, right? We all successful by working together and providing food for each other. When that happens, it's like, no, we're not going to allow that because they want to push this illusion of independence, right? So that's the state of affairs that's going on. All right, is there anybody? Let me see the chat here. Oops, I closed the window. But the flip side is that the city has so many options. Jeremy Barno is talking about rural and urban. I would assume it is. Like a lot of people move to the city to get more opportunity, but oftentimes they move to the city and they get disillusioned. They're like, oh, it wasn't as good as I thought it was. And there's lots of people who live in the city and they have no options, like homeless and houseless people. They live in the urban city and they have no options. So I don't know. The urban children grew up with diversity. Diversity can be considered a resource when you understand different ways of living. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I grew up in a very diverse environment. That was an advantage for me. But a lot of people don't pick up on diversity because because of our social conditioning. But yeah, I guess it is true. Like when you're in an urban environment, you have a better opportunity for encountering diverse populations. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Multiculturalism is the right term. Yep. Yeah, I lived in San Francisco Bay Area. That's very multicultural. Well, it was. Now it's being gentrified, so not so much. Not as much as it was back in the day. Is Oakland, where you grew up, considered multicultural or diverse? It was very diverse. It still is quite diverse, but when I was in the 90s, in the 1990s, it was very, very diverse. A lot of us have moved out, including me, and a lot more white people have moved in. Because as you may or may not know, a lot of like Web 2.0 tech companies like Facebook and Twitter and all these apps that came out, not Silicon Valley, not Microsoft and IBM, like those were there like in the 80s, but they were in like San Jose and like Santa Clara and like all the the southern parts of the Bay Area. So they didn't really affect, like they kind of stick to the suburbs. But the new tech, like the Meta and Instagram, like they just smacked down. Like, we're gonna take these abandoned buildings that used to be like warehouses that were used in the 50s and we're just gonna convert them and they were like smack dab in the middle of like the ghettos and the hoods, and they just converted them into their headquarters, and then they just like then the real estate and the housing started going up and nobody could afford to live there anymore, and then all these white people started showing up, and so the multiculturalism went down. Right. So it's not as multicultural as it used to be, but it was, and that was an advantage. I did learn a lot. I learned about various religions because I had friends who were Muslim, Buddhist. I even had friends who were like Taoists and things like that, or like all types of religions. Hindu people who were Hindus. So I learned a lot about different cultures, which was fun. Got to and then we all got along. We all respected each other, because I mean we had all the other problems like like gang violence and shit like that. So we were kind of too busy trying to survive to focus on like religious differences. But at the same time, we did share a lot of our religious beliefs, and that was fun. It's funny as you're a little kid, you don't have that that tribalism as hardcore as you do as you grow up and you get more and more of the programming. It's too bad. And then Cloud Monkey says economists sidestep intellectual biases and value latent concepts like need in order to cast consumer behavior in a value-free analytical mode and to represent economics as exact value-free science. Yep, that's true. I used to like read this magazine called The Economist. Economist is all right. It's fine. You know, but I like stopped. I ended my subscription because it was like what you're saying. It's like, wow, you guys are just y'all are just not factoring in like society. And like biases, intellectual. I mean, they started saying all types of shit like. I remember the Economist started like talking about the Olympics and like sports and how they were like talking about how trans athletes were like it was unfair like that trans women were getting into women's sports and that was bad for the economy. Like what is this? And then I remember and I think what really broke, the last straw for me was when they were started defending Dave Chappelle because he was like saying all this transphobic shit, and J.K. Rowling too. Now, The Economist is British, is a British magazine, so I guess they're with the J.K. Rowling. I'm guessing they're just like defending their home turf for J.K. Rowling, who is British. But they're like, J.K. Rowling and Dave Chappelle, they have a point. I'm like, I'm done with this magazine. I'm just done. Like they're trying to cancel as if like J.K. Rowling and Dave Chappelle are like canceled, quote unquote canceled, like as if they don't have access to millions of dollars and shit. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I stopped reading. So, but I do feel you with a lot of these economists now. They don't really factor in like their inherent biases, social biases. They just like money, 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 and they just say stuff not even understanding like your blindness for like capitalism is your tunnel vision of capitalism is like forcing you to perpetuate like oppressive discriminatory ideas, right? But they got the bias, they got the blinders on. So yeah, I stopped reading The Economist. It's still like it's not bad, They do have some insightful things. The other thing, like they do predictions every year. Like this is what's gonna happen next year, and it's like they're never right. But like they're like China's gonna do this and Hong Kong is gonna do this and this, that, and the other thing, and it's like y'all are dead wrong. Now of course like geopolitics, like who can predict that? You can't predict that. It's just too variable. There's too many variables, but I don't know why they even try. With so much confidence, and then they're wrong, and they continue to be like, you should listen to us. Anyway, I think that was the end of the slide. Okay, let me go back to the slide. Okay, and then go here. Okay, and then and this was the part where there was any questions or comments. So if there's no, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. But if there are no more, then I think we done. We finished. Okay, Jeremy Borno says, what's your view on the housing market? Okay, let me bring my camera back. Okay. Oops. Okay. I am so disorganized with my windows. Almost there. Okay, there and then here. Oh, dang it. Okay, there and then here. Okay, got it. What's your view on the housing market? Oh, I think the housing market is, well, I mean, just get fundamental. Housing should be free. There should be no market for housing. Like that. That's just ridiculous, don't you think? Or maybe you don't think so. Like, housing is like a basic need. Housing is like breathing air, right? Human beings, to survive, have to breathe oxygen. They have to consume water. They have to eat food. And they have to have shelter, right? If they don't have shelter, they will die, right? A living being needs shelter, or the living being will die, right? Why is there a market for things that are necessary for life? It's just stupid, right? It's absurd. And the problem is, like, magazines like The Economist, they talk about like housing markets as if it's like this thing that makes sense, like as if it's just like something that's supposed to be the case, right? It's like, no, it's just stupid. Like, just, I'd like them to just call it for what it is, like absurdity. But of course, like, it's stupid when you look at it from the a humanity point of view. But if you're looking at it from like, I'm just trying to make profit, like, it makes perfect sense. It's like, well, of course, if you make necessities things that you have to buy, you guarantee going to make profit because people have to buy them, right? Or they're going to die, right? So it's like ultimate evil, right? That's what I think about the housing market, right? It's an example of, this is why, they say, like, do you believe evil exists in the world? Yes. Give me an example. The housing market is an example of why I think evil exists in the world. Right? Because when you're charging people for basic necessities, that is evil. Right? I don't know. That's just me. It is ridiculous the house to be sold. Right. I agree. And then Ola Dapo, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I am mispronouncing that name. Sangokoya. This is very informative. Thanks. Well, thanks. And MA says, in a 26-year-long study, researchers found that the number one factor in developing empathy in children was father involvement. Please. Okay. You provide that link. Okay, I'm gonna look at that. Fathers spending regular time alone with their children translated into children who became compassionate adults. So, I mean, that doesn't happen when mothers do it? I don't understand. Fathers spending regular time alone with their children translated into children who became compassionate adults. Okay. Like, when a parent spends regular time alone with their children, they're gonna become compassionate. That makes sense. Are you saying so when the mother spends alone time with their children, they don't become compassionate? Like, I don't get it. Like, I mean, does that show that fatherhood is necessary, or it just shows like being a good parent is important, right? I don't know. Yeah, I'm look. It's critical people do not get defensive about this subject. Sure, but it's also critical to question and like. I mean, there's a difference between being defensive and question and just asking questions, right? Or analyzing, being critically critical, right? It's definitely important to be critical. You definitely don't want to just take something at face value, right? But I will look it up. But those are my questions of like, okay, what happens when the mother is alone with the kid? Do they not become compassionate? Or It's, I mean, that would be my question. Or like, and like to me, it's like it's obvious that a parent is being compassionate to their kids. They're gonna learn compassion, father or mother or whoever, right? Uncle, aunt, cousin, brother, sister. But why is the father a special case? Is like my question. I'm gonna look into that and be like, I think you're a, I'll look into it, see if that's the case. So, do fathers in the whole world even spend time with their children? Yeah, there's a lot of good fathers. Sure. There's lots of good fathers out there. There's a lot of bad fathers. I mean, there's horrible mothers, right? There's good mothers and there's horrible mothers, right? Yeah, I guess my argument is like gender is like irrelevant, right? It's like either you're a good parent or you're a bad parent, The father, the gender is irrelevant. I don't know. Parents are too stressed and overworked to spend time with their offspring. Yeah, the ones who have to don't have the resources for sure. That's true. But I know parents who spend good amount of time with their kids. I try to spend time with my daughter. I have a daughter, and I'm not too stressed and overworked to spend time with my offspring. Well, they're not my offspring. She's adopted, so. But yeah, I'm a parent. So. It is true. Like, if you're too stressed, yeah, you can that can definitely happen. But I know a lot of good parents. Okay, any more questions or comments, or should we cut out of here? Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely bookmark that study and take a read and see if it sways my opinion. My issue is that parents, and the heart is in my way. What happens when I hit that heart? I'm gonna hit this heart. Did anything happen? Because there's this button that's blocking my view from the chat, and I hit the button. I don't know if anything happened. I saw like a lot of hearts fly. I don't know if that does anything. So let me copy paste. My issue is that parents these days don't value family. Or it's difficult to make generalizations. Because I know plenty of parents, like my friends who I grew up with who are now parents, and they value parenting. Okay, I can exit out of this. They value family. I mean, some do and some don't. So many damn windows. This is why you gotta have multiple monitors. But I'm on my laptop. Okay. Yeah, some parents are good, some parents are bad. Not all parents are bad. Not all parents are good. Family is valued. Last question for this live. Would you say that modern people can care more about career than family? No. I think it's about the same. Sometimes we often think like, oh, we're a special case, but are we really? Like, back in yeah, I mean, you just got I in my mind I was just thinking about way back in the day where there was there was a time where there was no conception of childhood. Like, there was a time when there was no such concept as child. Like, it was, you're just a little adult, You know, babies were just little adults. Like children were just little adults, and then you just train. They entered apprenticeships, and then they learned how to work, and then you just worked for the family, right? You were just like a worker, like you were a farmer or like a blacksmith or like a cook, or but there was no concept of childhood. Like in many societies, like way back, like in medieval times and stuff like that. So like, did they care more about family than career? Probably not. It probably was like the same. I'm sure a lot of them did. A lot of them did back then. Were like, yeah, this is my offspring. I love my offspring. This is my blood. But then there are others who are like, dude, you're just somebody to help out with the farm. You gotta like help with the farm. So get strong and help with the farm. Help with build the dowry. So I don't know. I'm often skeptical of like, well, back in the day things were better, or like, well, things were worse back then. It's like, well, were they? I don't know. And if that was the last question, we will cut out of here. Thanks everyone for watching the show. We went kind of long this time, which is totally cool. I like hanging out. And yeah, so tune in next time for more philosophical thought. I'll see you later.